Welcome back to the Bassline podcast. This week, our guest is Pete Doerr. Thanks for coming in, Pete.
Thanks
for letting us come to your place, actually.
Absolutely, of course.
All right, so let's start this off with a little background from you. What got you into playing electronic music?
Oh, wow. Obviously, through a normal course of hanging out with friends and being out at the right parties and people introducing me to stuff and seeing the one person I think that started me getting into this was Tony Acco. Definitely have to give props to that. And Tony was playing over at his brother. He's got a twin brother, Rick. And over at Rick's house, Tony was over there playing, and we were over there just getting clearly way messed up. And Tony didn't want to play anymore, and he said, "Do you want to play?" And I'm like, okay. Did not know a damn thing what I was doing. It was pretty ridiculous, seeing. But so I was watching him and studying him and trying to figure out what he was doing with these records, like how he was mixing and why he was like moving volumes one way or another. And just intrigued by the whole deal. And so that kind of got me into it. And after getting a little more into it, I suppose my next big influence would have been Michael Ang. And I don't know. I went over to Michael's house. Michael ended up, we were over at his house, and he made a CD, or actually back at the time, God almighty, he was making a tape.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of how it started. It was just being introduced to it slowly and getting into it and seeing it, being totally just fascinated by how to mix from one track to the next and make a seamless flow from one record into the next.
Yeah.
So when this guy was like, "Do you want to do this?" Like, is he throwing you in at a party? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it was a house party. Not that many people there. It was pretty, basically I could train wreck all fucking day long and no one would have known the difference.
Yeah.
But that was your first DJing?
Yes.
Well, that's a way to jump in.
Yeah.
Trial by fire.
Pretty much, yeah. It was, but like I said, no one there cared or knew the difference, I could have fucked things up left and right and no one would have known.
How long ago was this?
Oh my God!
Or did we not talk about that?
No. I'll tell you this. So I actually bought turntables with 2 credit cards and a checkbook, and there was some like electronics fair that was going on in at the Expo Center, and it was Valentine's Day in 1989. So
wow,
yeah, 25 years ago.
Dang.
Is when I got turntables, and it was the previous to that is when I started getting exposed to this, and I don't know. So I got turntables and a mixer, and I had maybe 8 records, something terribly small. The whole buying those records. They were. I go back and listen to them now. I'm like thinking about them. Horrible. They're horrible. My music taste was just like shot, and so even going through, picking out records, and I bought obviously more gear than I had. The equipment, the turntables, and the mixer. It was hard to describe. I suppose I had more stuff than I had records to play. And so then from there, I just like was on a buying spree. Once I got the equipment, I was just on this huge buying spree, just, left and right. And of course, being a total novice to the whole deal, I was buying just total trash records. Didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was sad, I suppose. Obviously at the very beginning, but
you definitely develop your sound. It definitely matures as you kind of get into it. I remember the stuff I first got into. I listened back and I'm like, I played that out live, like I did. Shit.
How many records did you take to your first gig?
Well, I mean, the first gig is kind of a like what do you call your first gig? It was probably about a year and a half afterwards, and Frank McCrite, DJ Love, took me out to a place in Norman, and maybe to like 200 people or whatever, and that was the first time I had played out. And at the time, oh my God, again, the music of it was fun and fantastic at the time, but good God, I go back and listen to it now, it's like cheese graters on my ears. It's embarrassing to hear the kind of music that I was into at the time.
And you still have it.
Sadly. Sadly.
Well, and looking at your performances now, definitely too. Like you definitely have a signature sound now. You definitely have a style that you do, and it's very Pete Doerr. I mean, everybody knows what they're getting into. How long have you been doing that style? How long have you been into that?
So when after like 25 years of having my turntables and stuff, I think I probably developed it maybe around like 20 years ago. And I think if anything, it had to do with being out, getting exposed to the right clubs, the right places, and if I'm going to give credit to anybody for about that is going to be Tony Acco, Steve Morton, and another guy who I probably shouldn't mention, but I'm going to, Peter Guzman. And these guys, but it was between Tony and Steve, they just said basically it all comes back down to house. No matter what it goes, no matter what direction it wanders and meanders and someone comes up with some new style, it always comes back down to house. And obviously, the style of music was a continuation of disco. And so it never really died. Everyone says like disco's dead or whatever. They're full of shit.
Right.
But it didn't really, it just hibernated for a while for some people. It didn't make it to the mainstream, but it, I don't know.
Well, it's always had a root in house music. Even all this stuff today is rooted in house music.
Absolutely. Well, and that, of course, is rooted in disco.
Disco, yeah.
And dance music, and dance clubs, and whatever else. And so that was the biggest thing, that it was just a continuation of that. And the people that were still making that loved it and produced it and made music for it. They just kept going on and on and on. And even though it may have fallen off the radar for so many people, it didn't make a difference. You know, the people who loved it and were doing it, they just kept doing it. And so it's been this constant evolution, and it still is today, of course. But you know what makes a signature sound for me today? I mean, I don't know how I happened into it, but it just happened to be one of those things that was what it drove me. I hear a sound, I hear a sound, and I hear a rhythm, or I hear vocals, or I hear a key line, or something like that, and it just drives me. It sounds like, oh my God, I've got to have that. That is what I'm looking for. And that's what drives me and pushes me to, you know, if I find the right sound, find the right signature sound, you know, and if that's how somehow I happen to be defined, well, you know, proud of that.
No, and it's great. Like, I really, you know, I've always enjoyed your signature sound. It's very, you know, high energy, and it's more obvious to me too, because whether I see you in front of just a few people or a lot of people, it doesn't matter to you. That music is making you just move and move and move.
Right.
And it's always great to see that. But it's just that very high energy kind of disco house feel. Like, I don't really know how to explain that style, but you have a definite voice. You know, you found it, and it's awesome.
Well, and if it doesn't make me move, it's not going to make anyone else move.
Right.
And boy, do you move.
Yeah. And I definitely try to make sure that if I'm playing a track, if I don't feel it, if it's not within my soul to you know, absolutely feel what I'm playing, don't play it.
Yeah.
And then again, that there's some tracks that I've got that are you know, that they only make sense at certain times, and you've either got to work into them if you want to go that direction, or you know, you just can't turn around and just go from one style to the next style out of the blue. You know, everyone's going to look at you like you're fucking crazy. But the same track, if you work into it just the right way, you're going to work into it, and all of a sudden it's going to be a floor filler. It's going to be one of those ones that just everyone goes insane about.
Yeah.
But it takes a while for those things to work out, to work into. And then again, there's, of course, other times where you can have a completely different flavor, and all of a sudden, just like a brick wall, boom, bring in something else that is just totally, you know, an opposite, and poof, everyone is on fire, going crazy.
Right.
And sometimes you need tracks like that too. It's like if nobody's really paying attention, you're grooving on one style, you almost need like a brick wall to change the whole environment, get people's attention, and go, okay, focus back here again. Come on, let's do this.
Yeah. I can remember Scotty Canfield, Dallas, and he did something similar to that. He's was playing out at a party, and just it was kind of like dead, going nowhere. He kept the style of the previous DJ. He comes up and plays, and like 2 or 3 tracks into like his play, he turns around and just like drops a fucking bomb, and everyone just like, where'd this come from? Poof, and like the whole place erupted. And those are like, that's the energy, that's the vibe, the style of something like that. When all of a sudden you're just on fire about how killer the music is. I don't know. hard to explain, but until you're there, until you're seeing it and hearing it and experiencing it right there firsthand.
One of the things I think a lot of people don't understand with the DJing, though, is the track you listen to before the track that's playing right now heavily influences how you hear the current track playing.
Oh, yeah. Well, every song, for most of the stuff with house music, it's got an intro and an outro. And if you are playing a song that's got a long, slow overlap for an intro, and it may have a short outro, then if it has a short outro, then you need to pick the next song with a short intro, so that way the overlap kind of works out, short with short. Yeah. But if you've got a long intro, then like your preceding record would have to have a long outro. That way you have a nice, long, slow overlap of things that you can make a smooth transition from one to the next. Mm-hmm. So
you got to watch your phrasing.
Yeah, you have to watch phrasing. You have to make sure you're not overlapping vocals, not overlapping key lines, or if you have something that's in like, I don't know, keys or anything like that. But I mean, like A versus C or whatever, and something is in a certain key, and you can hear it in the headphones. You know that something, like if the key lines don't match up, and they overlap and they sound horrible, well, the tracks aren't going to work out. You back it up, pull the track off, put it on something different, and then move into that. But you can't overlap key lines. You can't overlap vocals unless the vocals intertwine. And
that can be beautiful at times.
It can be. Oh my God! Yeah,
man, that smile on your face right now.
Yeah. When you find that gem, you're like, oh my God, these things are working out. These tracks are like, they're overlapping. The vocals are intertwining in just a perfect way. Those are the things that, like, oh wow, this is really happening, and that happens all the time when I'm playing. I've discovered, like, oh my God, these two records really work out very well together, and I'm hearing it for the first time. Everyone else on the floor is hearing it for the first time. That is just an amazing, amazing feeling of like, wow, I guessed right, and it's working out.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of another big reason why, we always have this conversation, how I do things differently, and, how I like to have kind of a set list. And the reason I do that, rather than play on the fly like a lot of people do, is because, even when I'm looking at like, my music library and whatnot, and what can work together, it's like I may have, 100 songs that in different keys that is still in the same scale as what I'm playing, but out of those 100, one's going to be the best match, and I get very anal about finding the one that's the perfect one to play next instead of just playing the other 99. I could.
That will drive you crazy.
It will, and I do it. I love still doing it though. I can't get out of that.
And even still, even if you find the one track, and I hate some of the DJs I've known throughout the years, they will find if they play one song, exactly what's going to be playing next because they found the one that worked, and they found the one that was a perfect overlap, and now all of a sudden they're like just pigeonholed into always playing these two tracks together, and I've got a big problem with that. It's like you should always keep it fresh.
Well, the thing that I do though with my sets is I have such a bad short-term memory. I don't remember what I played last time and what works. So I'm always figuring new things out every time.
And excellent, good, and you should always get. And so, but if you know that I played this last time, and that I played this the second time, one after another, then at that point, choose something different, try something different. You've got to experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've had people ask me about my record collection, and they say, well, how do you have it sorted? I'm like, what do you mean, how do I have it sorted? Right. I don't have it sorted.
Do you know where anything is in that room?
No, I don't. And that's the best part about it, is being able to say, well, I don't know where it is. So if I try to look for a track, it might take me 20 minutes. But obviously the current record's is playing out. I've got to be able to put something else new on. And so what that forces me to do is to dig through stuff and go, yes, this will work, this will work, this won't work, this won't work, and then eventually I find one and go, this one will work. And you think about the permutations, combinations of different tracks you can put together, and when you've got a pretty large collection, that's a very, very huge list of different possible combinations. Yeah. And so, if you don't know where anything is, I think it helps keep it fresh and keep it, I don't know, a little more enjoyable for anyone else who's hearing it.
Structure and chaos.
Well, yeah, because if you always hear one song and into the next song, if those two tracks are always going to be played together, I mean, that's boring.
Yeah.
You know. So I prefer to keep it as interactive as possible between you and your records, between you and your music.
I've got songs and that I just love. My favorite songs to play, and I've got to be very careful that I only play them even once every 6 months. Even like my closer the other night, the remix that I do, I haven't played that since January, and I had to check. I had to go back on my list and go, when's the last time I played it? Okay, it's been since January. I can play it again. Sweet.
Now, you have an extensive collection of records, Pete. How long have you been collecting? Like all
25
25
years.
years?
Yeah, all
but
25 years.
But
Yeah.
you've also been in a lot of really interesting places buying these records.
Oh yeah, I think bought records all around the country. Really, I mean, but I think one of my more successful record shopping experiences was in London, and there are about 6 record stores that are at very close proximity. And I was over there for business, but I took the weekend off, and I went shopping at from Saturday until Sunday, and I hit all 6 stores, and I was there all fucking day, just. I went through thousands of thousands of records, trying to find the right sound, whatever else, and they came back with a stack of 120 records. And I remember one of the bigger problems, of course, after having bought all that shit, was to get on the plane, because they've got a weight requirement for records. But I walked into Black Market Records, and this is day one, and the first thing I did was buy a record bag, and it's only so thick, it's only so wide, and so I was just in there shopping, and just I ended up getting a huge stack. I mean, this stack must have been 2-3 feet tall. I mean, it was huge, and I just went through record after record, and just going through and going no, maybe no, maybe yes, and then making stack and taking this 2 foot. 2 foot stack of records and whittling it down to yes, I want these. And I walked away with some amazing tracks out of that place. But shopping for records is definitely a tricky business, because you will definitely end up with some total dogs. You're like, what the fuck did I buy that for? And it made sense at the time, I suppose, to buy it, but I mean, I bought records in London, in Paris, Montreal, of course, New York, Dallas. I bought a ton of stuff out of Dallas. Tony Alco's store in Oklahoma City, Michael Ang's store here in Tulsa. I bought records in Denver and Los Angeles. I mean, there's just any place that had a record store. If they had something, I'd go in there and shop around for a little bit. I don't know how many girlfriends I've pissed off, we have to stop in here real quick, and she's thinking to herself, oh god, that means I'm gonna be fucking bored for the next 4 or 5 hours. Oh, sorry, honey.
That's kind of revenge though, when girls take us clothes shopping or
That's
something.
what I
It's
was
it's only gonna be a minute. Yeah, 3 hours later, fuck off.
Yeah, sort of the same deal,
Yeah.
The nice thing was in London, though, one, I didn't have a girlfriend there, but even if so, that one of the record stores was it was in the basement of a bar. And
that's
so,
cool.
Yeah. So in the middle of shopping, you just go upstairs, grab a beer, come back downstairs, and I remember one guy, I don't know, ended up spilling a whole beer inside of a crate of records.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, bad deal. I'm just, I was thinking to myself, glad it's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, shopping for records though. I sort of miss the experience. Everything now, of course, is online, and you don't get that same experience anymore. You can peruse through tracks left and right and whatever.
Yeah, and there's a big argument on that too. You bring up that was definitely the thing back in the old school is I was searching for the records, and again we go back to talking like we did last week about the DJs were known for the certain songs they would play because they had those records, and most people didn't have those specific records, and it was really about the hunt. And everybody's like, well, now everything's online, it's super easy, blah blah blah, and it's like everybody's playing the same tracks. It's like, well, but I still kind of feel that the online is still just flooded with, but even way more tracks, and you can even do anything with. And I feel now it's kind of the point of hunting deep and getting deeper and darker online to find the tracks that nobody knows about yet and pulling those gems out. Because there's still hidden gems. You just search differently now.
Yeah, but certainly with vinyl, and they would press maybe 500 copies, 1,000 copies.
Yeah.
And if you had one, that was it. You got it. But now with everything, you can copy it, and you can make copies of it and distribute it out. And that, in terms of having a signature sound or signature set of style of music and whatever else, now anyone who wants it, they can get it so much easier. But when it was vinyl, it was, if you had that press, that was it.
Yeah.
It had 500 copies, 1,000 copies. If you happen to be lucky enough to get one of them, then if you wanted to hear that track, that was it. You got it.
Yeah.
And you had to go out and hear that person play that night because he was happened to be playing, that one. So, the digital world, obviously it's got its pros and cons, and you can do some amazing things to it. But when it comes to vinyl and it being a very exclusive sound to just you, or however many people happen to have that record, but and then also if you think about it too, with vinyl, they deteriorate over time, and if one gets scratched or damaged or whatever, you're I don't know. It's a priceless gem at that point, especially when it's a floor filler. It's one of these ones that's just fucking amazing. It's just gonna blow the room up and just take the roof off the place. And if something happens to it, oh god, it's just devastating. It's like having. Oh.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, you were the first person that ever told me that vinyl, really, out of your best quality plays, you get 50 plays.
Well, probably more than that for vinyl. There's acetates. Acetates are you don't get that many plays. I mean, you'll get maybe 50 plays out of it, but like the really high end DJs and the old school high end DJs, they will do press stuff on acetate, and the acetates you only get so many plays out of it. Before they deteriorate, and obviously the deterioration happens slowly and gradually to the point where you can't use it. But there's plenty of tracks I've got that I'm very cautious or careful or selective about when I play them. In other words, if you're hearing it, then I've just got a wild crazy hair and just decided to go ahead and play it. But it's hard to describe. It's like almost like you are here. I'm playing this for you. Enjoy it now, because it's the only time you're ever going to hear this. I haven't recorded it. I haven't put it out anywhere. If you're going to hear it, here it is, and here and now, and that's it.
Right.
That's crazy.
But it does deteriorate over time a little bit. There's
Yes, it
a
does.
small shaving that comes off every time you play a record.
Yeah. Well, and depending on the needle too, if you have an elliptical shape that is sharper and would sit deeper into the grooves, versus another needle that is rounder and wider, it sits higher in the groove. And if you want to get a different sound out of your records, if you just want to play them, then use the wider, rounder, fatter needle, and it sits higher in the groove. And you can wear that part of the record out. And if you want to get a richer, more precision sound out of it, then you use an elliptical that would sit deeper into the record and plays a completely different part of the record. If you choosing the different needle, you can get different sound out of it. So even though you might wear one part of the record out using fatter needles, you can use you can get a different sound or better sound by choosing a different needle and going deeper into the grooves.
Deeper into
That's
the
interesting.
grooves.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea until I was in Pete's basement one night, and he started telling me all this awesome stuff. I was like, no one talks about this. I don't know a lot of people that even play vinyl exclusively, such as you do, and I just play MP3s, man. Like, I grew up with the internet. I don't remember a whole lot before that.
The
you know?
youngins.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously with MP3s, anything digital, you're not going to get the deterioration. But then again, if it can be copied easily, right? You also kind of lose your signature sound. I mean, someone else can easily come through and go, "Oh yeah, I love that song," and play it immediately. You know.
Well, I have vinyls that I don't even bother to open because I can find it online.
And keep them sealed then.
Yeah. And it's always going to be fine. And I like listening to it online, and I'm not messing with having risk involved of me ruining this record. It's still sealed. But do you scout things out online and then go ahead and bind the vinyls off of Discogs or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's occasionally records I'll come across or friends of mine that are like, hey, listen, have you heard about this? Marcus Lang has been an amazing influence. I mean, I taught Marcus how to play. I mean, well, I wouldn't say I taught him how to play. I mean, I introduced him to it and showed him kind of a little bit of the ropes, and then he took it from there, and he took it a whole lot further. Marcus is amazing.
Yeah.
But Marcus, every once in a while, will come across tracks, and he'll be like, hey, you need to listen to this. Check this out. And I'll go hear it and go, oh, my God, I've got to have it. And when I look for it, I'm not looking for it on digital. I'm looking for it on vinyl. So yeah, I'll go take the titles, put it in Discogs or whatever, or Gem or something like that, and go look for it. And hopefully they'll have it on vinyl. But yeah, there's plenty of tracks that I wish I could have. And from what I've heard, and I don't know this to be true or whatever, but from what I've heard, is that they say that vinyl is coming back, and even in the big club scenes, right? New York, Miami, London, something like that, was where London, the vinyl is coming back because of that exclusivity. If you don't have it pressed, if it's digital, everyone's going to have a copy of it. If you have it on vinyl, that's it. You own it. And you want to hear it, that's it.
And we're starting to see some new labels now. Like I believe Von Stroke has a label that is no internet presence.
Nice.
You have to have the mail invites.
Wow.
Only vinyl.
Nice.
No digital releases.
There's quite a big rebellion. You even see in the major cities, clubs coming out and saying only vinyl. You can't play anything but vinyl in these clubs, and it's almost like this big rebellion against a digital.
Is it a rebellion though, or is it more just along the lines of saying, hey, we're sick and tired of everything being copied left and right, and we want to keep some sort of signature sound, some sort of like this is what we do, and
yeah, no. I don't know. Rebellion, maybe not the best word. I don't know. It is it does feel kind of forced because there's a lot of almost attitude with it though too. If you don't play vinyl, then you're not fucking playing here. Fuck you.
There's a little attitude there.
There's a little attitude.
I see that.
And that's how I think maybe I choose a rebellion. And I get it because the whole digital world has definitely flooded the market, and there's the lack of exclusivity. I can't say that word. And whatnot. But it's interesting to see the direction happen for sure.
So with some of the new technologies with digital and everything, what they're able to do is be able to match beats instantly and even match phrasing, right? So they barely press a few buttons. And so if you think about with vinyl, a lot of the time you're trying to overlap records and have them match speeds, and you're constantly battling a drift in the sound so that it's either going too fast or too slow. You need to work at it to eventually you zone in to exactly what the perfect time is. Yeah, and so a lot of time your time is consumed figuring out how to get the records perfectly matched. If you don't need to do that anymore, right? If everything's perfectly matched, it's all using digital stuff and left and right that you've got everything perfectly spaced. Well, obviously you've freed up a lot of time mixing.
Right.
You don't need to think about how to overlap.
But you think about other things. I mean, that's the thing. Even when it comes down to other DJing, it doesn't come down just to mixing. It comes down to the art form of putting songs together. So with this digital thing, it's a new medium. So now that you're not concentrating on that so much. Now you can concentrate on other things.
I'm playing. Yeah, you can play around. You could punch like 20 million different buttons and stuff like that. You can do sound effects, and you don't need to think about how to make sure that the overlap is going to happen right. And also you could do this with like 4 turntables or 4 decks or whatever.
Right.
And you definitely get a lot more options, and for almost being able to, but the one thing I think I've got an exception with, it's neat and interesting to watch. I'm trying to remember his name. It's Scribble or something like that, like DJ Scribble, and he would do a mix master mic.
Yeah.
And doing all this stuff on vinyl and putting trick records on after trick record, and just again and again and again, and just doing one little trick and then on to the next thing, and one little trick and on to the next thing, and going through the motions, but never giving a song an opportunity to do its work.
Yeah.
And you just don't get, you can't do the build up and the rise and like the rise and fall, the rise and they bring you up and just slowly let you down, the rise up, and you don't get that opportunity for really getting a song to do its job of fucking tearing you up.
Yeah, but I think too, with the digital age, there's a lot of things you can't obviously do in vinyl, and you've got a lot of other characters and things that you can do. I don't think we're quite there yet in the idea of looking at this as a new medium and not trying to compare it to the old school and going, okay, now with our options, what can we do with this? There has been a lot of people online that even you've shown me, Milo, a lot of stuff at times. I was like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Taking this new medium to a whole new level and doing things that haven't been done before and really doing more exceptional things. I think that's where we need to get with the digital age.
So and I also hear the word set. And often enough, I guess I hear the word set, and I think of something that is pre-planned, right?
Right.
And again, going back to, that's one of the reasons I keep my vinyl just in some random order, is so that there's never a set. But a set for me is someone who has gone back through and practiced. These things are going to go in this order, and I'm going to work through it. And here's my hour-long time slot or whatever, and they're going to play this stuff in this specific order. And that just, it can be creative because you can take it and do the creativity side in your basement, work it out, and then go back and play it live. But is that really creativity? I mean, to the point of being able to improvise on the spot, and that is what
That's what you're hooked on.
I'm a huge proponent for. Basically, can you recover from anything? Can you be able to jump into any situation and be able to play the next track based on So, God, it cracks me up sometimes. The older DJs, and they're getting ready to hand off a track. The next DJ is coming on. And sometimes, depending on how well they like the next guy, right, and they're going to either hand him off something that is a total bitch to mix out of,
right? Yeah.
or they're going to play just like a regular record, And I've definitely known people I've done it myself that it's like, you know what, I'm going to hand you off something that you're going to have fucking the worst time in the world handing it off to. You're not going to be able to mix out of this thing. You're going to train wreck and die on this.
That's so mean. Funny, but really mean.
Yeah, I mean, just shit happens.
That's
So
hilarious.
is that your subtle way of your DJ battle?
Well, not so much. It's like, hey, listen, how skilled are you? And if you're skilled, you know how to get out of it. If you're not skilled, well, you know what? Everyone's going to you're going to expose yourself of being a fraud or something like that,
Right.
So,
It makes me kind of think of those T-shirts that said 3 decks and effects. Just kidding, I use Tractor.
Yeah.
wow.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So do you ever play with more than 2 decks?
I have, yeah.
You have? What?
Yeah. In fact, I had a third turntable. I don't know what the hell happened to it. I took it over to someone's house, I'm sure 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, Chris Jutsu sold it.
Yeah. Basically, it's been making its rounds. So and Techniques, I guess, went out of business or whatever, and maybe someone picked them back up. But I definitely plan on getting a third turntable again. So
Nice.
So you exclusively like the Techniques 12s?
I haven't found any other turntable that can do what those do. And especially with the longevity, and I mean, I've seen Techniques go down like 2 flights of steps and just roll down, just crunch, crunch, and then turn around and they're still playing like normal.
Damn.
Yeah, they're freaking durable. They're really durable. You won't get that with other. As far as I know, you won't get those with other brands.
Yeah. I think Melanie fell asleep. Somebody poke her.
What are you saying?
I can't believe I just said that.
I can't believe you said that either.
That would wake her up, though. I'm pretty sure if she stays asleep through all of that, you might want to go see a doctor. I don't know.
I'm just listening. It's very
No,
informative.
I know.
Yeah, sorry. Let me recover a little bit. Time for another shot? Is that what we're saying?
We're doing more shots. More
All right.
drinks?
Well, so one thing that I think we've mentioned a couple of times now that maybe not everybody knows what this is, but phrasing.
Yeah.
In your DJ set, a lot of people understand the beat matching thing, but maybe can you go through just a quick synopsis of what phrasing would be?
Yeah. There's 32 beats to a phrase, but they chop it up, and this is what Tony Acco explained to me way back in the day, and so trying to go through like the technical analysis of it, and that 8 beats to a measure and 4 measures to a phrase, and so basically 32 beats to a phrase, and and even still, they would. I've noticed that they don't just do simple single phrases. Usually, phrases happen in 2s, 4s, 8s, something like that. And so, if you're gonna like launch into overlap, you're gonna do things in such a way. You got to figure out now: is this the first beat, the beginning of a phrase, in the first of 2, 4, or 8 phrases? And if the outro for one is going to be doing, as it steps out, are you on the 8 or the 2 or 8 or the 4 or the 2 for an overlap? And I don't know. Phrasing, if you don't get it right, then obviously you're going to have some mismatched vocals, you're going to have some mismatched key lines, you're going to have some bass lines coming in at the wrong time. It's just something that's going to be a wreck. And I definitely have noticed in the past, I've had plenty of tracks that will, it's almost like the DJ or the producer or whatever, the creator, purposefully, knowingly, will go through and say, you know what? There's going to be 8 phrases to the end of the track, but I'm going to go ahead and stick in these 4 extra beats somewhere in the middle, And if you don't know about those 4 extra beats or 8 extra beats or something like that, it's going to throw the whole thing off. And if you don't know about them, but that's one of the things that I would say separates the men from the boys, right? The people who know their music and people who are just playing and are not aware that this is going to happen. And it's almost like the people who are making the music are saying, you've got to know this record. You've got to know my shit before you actually play it. Because if you don't, you're going to sound like ass whenever you play it. There's plenty of tracks that are out there that are like that. And not all records also, that's on the outro. But on the intro, even still, there's records that I've got that they don't start on the very first beat of the very first measure of the very first phrase, right? They'll start on some odd number, like 4 or 5. I've got records that start like on a third of a beat, like a 5 and a third. So how do you even like launch that? How do you even throw that? Right. But I've been able to go through and figure out like when something like that is that screwed up. Take a little pen and mark where the first beat would be, or the 5th beat, or the 4th beat, or whatever, and it's completely dry air, and I will mark where on the pen, or with a pen, I'll mark it on the record where this beat would be if it was there, and pull the record back and launch it on that beat. Oh, so wow. Yeah, and so it's completely dry air, and so that way when the rest of the record kind of catches up, and actually there's now sound. And that sound will pick up, and it'll be exactly on phrase. I mean, I've got records that are that screwed up.
Do you think?
And that's what I mean, separating the men from the boys.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, there's records that are like that out there. And I really think the people who are producing this stuff and pressing this stuff, they're like, you know what? we're gonna
See
figure
what
out
you
who.
did.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure that there's no children playing this record.
Yeah.
Oh, and do you think that's a little bit of a battle against the digital age?
No, because we're talking about older records.
Well,
doing this.
still, but like,
yeah.
say you digitize it, your computer is going to read these beats in a different way than what
Right,
your
but
ears would.
But these producers created this before digital was even a thing. So
Yeah.
And that's still, I'd say that's been like coming from the music side of things, being in bands and stuff. We love doing that shit. Absolutely. You know, let's do a break where it's 7 beats and we hit back on to 1.
yeah.
Love doing it. It's so much fun to throw. If you can, to me in music, if you can throw people off guard in a good way, you did it right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of tracks that have got something like that where you think you know what the phrase is going to be or where the beat's going to come back in, and all of a sudden you're off by half a beat. Boom. Yeah, and that surprise, absolutely, I love it.
As long as it works right. Because
Yeah.
it's super
Yeah.
easy to fail on that shit. It's super easy.
Well, it's like what we were talking about last week about mixing out of key. And you were like, well, it can be done to build tension. It's like, yeah, it can, but it's got to be done by a skilled hand.
Right.
And it's like tricks like that are amazing when the right person does it. You know, like,
Yeah.
And Pete's the right man, obviously. Pete, you got it, boy. Or should I say man?
So are we?
Are you flirting with him? This is weird. This is
Oh,
getting
Lord.
weird.
Yeah, I was going to say. So are we going to go downstairs and start playing some records? What are we gonna do?
We still got some time. We've only been doing this about 40 minutes. We got another
40 minutes.
20 minutes on this conversation, and
Does it need to be an hour?
it didn't have to be an hour, but I figured
Well, I can't
you have
wait
enough
to-
stories and things to talk about. We could probably
This
pull it in.
basement's going to be great. I feel like
Yeah.
your basement is like a little treasure cave, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, let's actually talk about that. Let's kind of set this up since we're going into it and going down, and we'll take a break and then go and plug in and let you record a set here. So let's talk about your process. I know you do everything on the fly, but is there any way that, you know, when you're starting a show or things you think about during a show, or how do you pick what you're going to play next?
Yeah, no, I don't pick at anything really. I mean, even when I'm getting ready to play out at a club or something like that, and if I'm gonna like pack a bag or two, whatever, and take it out to a club, I just go downstairs and just start like pulling records out and throw them into the bag, not in any kind of order or anything like that. And then once I get there, whoever, if I'm playing after somebody, I've listened to the sound that they're playing, and I think, well, do I want to mix out of what they're playing, or do I just want to like shotgun it and just like, you know, make a clear delineation from their music to mine? Or if I want to mix smooth into their music, then the only way I can pick out the next record after them is to listen to their last record. So I can't make a choice until they've played it.
Yeah.
And then from there, I've also got to look at what their outro might be, and figure out whether or not they're going to be just a long overlap, short overlap, and from there, you know, make my choice. And then once I figure out what that is, and I know what their track is, then I can start picking out other records. Well, you know, so now that I know I'm playing my first record, what's going to be my second one? And I'll go through and I'll pick out, well, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 different records. I'll say these are all maybes. Which one do I think is going to work out best? And now between 5 records or whatever that I've got kind of pulled out, I mean, I'll just like go through and like sort and lift them up and go, look at this one, look at this one, look at this one. And then once I figure it out, I'll make a decision. It's like, well, out of these 5 that are maybes, this one's a yes. And I'll put it on, try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't work out, put it back in the stack, pull out the next one.
Yeah. So the only thing is, like, before show, you go through your records and like it's pretty much more like, I like this track, or I think this would work for this venue tonight, or
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of reading into like what's working out on the floor. So you know, if it's early in the night, you might play early on music. If it's late in the night and the place is blowing up, whatever, and you're there to make it blow up, then yeah, you might try to choose something that's a little more energy to it.
yeah.
But if it's, I don't know, if it's early in the night, you play some kind of like a little more down tempo stuff. You know, people are sitting around and not thinking too much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not overbearing.
Yeah. You don't want to get too crazy too early.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you don't break out your high end stuff or your top end stuff until obviously the time is right. And if the time is right, and all of a sudden the bar's starting to fill up and people are showing up and the place is getting busy, and then that's when you play a floor filler and the place blows up.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are good times.
And so, obviously where you're playing and the type of crowd that brings in is a huge aspect of that as well too, right?
Oh,
the
yeah.
venue and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely depends on the place, but and being able to read the crowd can be pretty tricky sometimes. And you think something is totally going to fly, and then all of a sudden, the floor is gone. It's like, what? I thought this was going to work, but apparently not. That's when you change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place to play around town?
Yeah, my basement.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I like your basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my basement, or like, I don't know, 10 other friends around town, their houses or something like that. I mean, if I'm going to play for anyone, though, where I get the greatest joy and most fulfillment is playing with friends of mine who know how to play. They've got good records, and we're just there playing. There's no show, there's no crowd, you don't need to think about anything. You just go and play, and just for the experience of playing.
Yeah.
You have a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you play for a crowd, you play for someone who's got a business, and their business, obviously they want to get people in the door and whatever else. You got a little more things to think about it.
Right.
You go play in someone's house or basement or whatever at a party. You got nothing to think about. Good Lord, you fuck up a mix. Who cares?
So one of the things you've brought up to me in the past, Pete, was we were down in your basement, and you were talking about the way you set up your monitoring system is very specific.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're going to play a delay of sound, it can definitely impact how you mix and like how well you mix.
And you're talking milliseconds of sound. It's so minute, but it can mean the world of difference.
It can make the difference between a train wreck and a decent mix, right? And so I was out playing at a place down in Oklahoma City. I was out with a friend of mine, and the monitors weren't working. So the only sound that you had that was instantaneous sound was sound coming out of the headphones. The speakers for like the main club were quite a ways away from the DJ booth. So the sound exiting the speakers would take milliseconds for it to exit the speaker before it ends up hitting your ears. And I remember this friend of mine, he just couldn't mix on that. It was there's too much of a delay and was having a hard time with it, and not doing so well. And so I got up and played, and I said, you need to do it like this. So you match the beats from the headphones to the sound, even though it's a delayed sound. You match from the headphones that are right on your ears to the sound that's coming out of the speakers with milliseconds of delay. And you match the speeds. Get your speeds matched. Once they're done, then you can go back and launch the first beat at the right time based on you pull it back, you take the headphones off at that point, and you listen for the very first beat, let it go based on the very first sound you hear out on the floor, and you set the record in motion kind of in such a way that once the speeds are matched, then you take the headphones off. Now you can set the thing in motion, and now the beats all line up afterwards. And if the speeds are perfectly matched, in other words, if there's a delay, when you first start mixing or first start trying to put the sounds together, you can overlap and listen to the sounds and match speeds, even though it's a delayed speed or delayed sound from what's in your headphone versus what's on the floor. And then you take the headphones off, pull it back, find the first beat, and then take with the headphones off. You can find the first beat, let it go, and then from there, the rest of it is just you're listening and you're mixing off of the floor sound versus like what we would do is listen with the headphones and the monitors, hearing that sound and matching that way. But instead, now you take the headphones off and now you're listening and mixing entirely, listening to the sound system floor sound.
Right.
And that can be a big difference.
And that delay is there just straight up from length of cables and how...
No. It's
the delay of sound from the speed of sound.
So what you've got, though, what you've got is you've got your speakers set away from you. So what you're actually hearing is the sound coming out, bouncing off the wall, and getting back to you. That's where the milliseconds come in.
Really?
Yeah, it's the traveling of sound.
Yes, some of it is a bounce off of a wall, but like this sound system happened to be far enough away from the DJ booth. The only way you're going to hear the instantaneous sound is to have monitor speakers inside the DJ booth with you, and you have to mix off that sound. But if the floor is far, far away from where you're at, you have milliseconds of delay, and that milliseconds of delay can really, really mess up your mix.
Yeah.
Man. So what is the ideal setup? Like two monitors?
Having good monitors.
Yeah, monitors on either side. I mean, if you're sitting there in the middle, and you've got to have monitors that are relatively, really pretty close as possible to your ears. And you've got to mix off that sound. You can't mix off of a sound that is, I don't know, like, if it's a big club, you could have, 40, 50 feet away from the main dance floor.
And it just takes time for that sound to travel to you.
Absolutely.
It takes time for the sound to exit those speakers to hit your ears. But the sound inside your headphones, that sound is instantaneous, right? It's electronic and traveling through the electronic pulse traveling through the copper is almost instantaneous. But once it exits the speakers, it takes time for that sound to travel through the air to hit your ears. And so if you're listening to it inside your headphones is instantaneous, but the sound that has now exited the speakers out on the floor, it takes a while for that sound to travel back to your ears, and you're mixing on a delayed sound to you.
Yeah. But also think about the situation we had Friday as well, too, in the stage that you helped me build on Friday. Was we had JC's monitoring system, which was great, and I'm glad he brought that. But
it was fantastic that he brought it.
Yeah. But the other side of the coin, though, is too looking at the different frequencies. Highs and mids are directionals, bass is ominous. So where we were at that table before that monitoring system came in, is we were hearing primarily bass.
It was just bass.
Just bass, and so we're not getting the highs and the mids. If we would have been in a room, we would have gotten some of that back. We would have gotten some of the bounce back. We would have heard something. But even still, you can't mix to just the bass, that roaring, shaking bass. That's another aspect of having a good monitoring system as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you have your DJ booth should be kind of like a clean room or something like that. It should be completely different from what's happening on the floor, because what's happening on the floor, again, what you're hearing on the floor is microseconds of delay from the sound that happens out there, from the sound that happens inside your booth, inside your headphones. And you want the monitor headphones, or the monitor sound and the headphones, you want that all to be instantaneous. You want to be able to make sure that your ears are hearing that sound as close to real time as possible.
Yeah. Well, right on.
You want a clean room, padded walls, and
almost, yeah. And especially when you've got a really, really big club. You go to some really, really big city, and they've got some major and intense amount of sound. That bass, the bass that happens way out there, is it's got a delay before it comes back to you. And you can't mix on that. Yeah. And so, of course, the only way to get around that is to match your speeds, take the headphones off, launch your first beat, and then from there you're matched on time. But you've got to listen to, at that point, take the headphones off, and you listen and you mix based on what you hear out on the floor. Even though it's a delayed sound, you've taken the headphones off. Now you're listening on that delayed sound to not only the record you're bringing in, but the record you're bringing out.
Man, talk about separating the boys from men. Like, it
That's
sounds
right.
like a tough moment, but it will come up
Absolutely.
as a DJ, definitely.
Absolutely. In fact, just another story about separating the boys from the men. That's one guy, I swear to God. And there are some mixers that are out there that they don't use a crossfader, and I've stepped away from crossfaders. I think crossfaders are for amateurs and whatever.
Drum and bass.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not a big fan of the crossfader.
Sorry. I didn't say that.
And so with the crossfader, and I remember this is a high end mixer. I mean, this thing's like $2,000, $3,000 mixer, but it only had knobs, no crossfader. And I just remember this one guy he was just totally full of himself and just like a master of whatever. And he walks up and sees this mixer with knobs, no crossfader. And he freaks the hell out. And he just does not know what to do with himself because all of a sudden now he can't mix on this mixer.
Oh, wow.
Because there's no crossfader. I'm like, child, step away. Step away and let someone else do this because clearly you don't know what you're doing. And it was just pretty funny. But the mixing with levels versus mixing using the crossfader, separating the men from the boys.
Right on. So you don't touch crossfaders.
No, actually, in all actuality,
Just in his basement when nobody's looking.
yeah, no, actually, the crossfader on my mixer is broken, and I won't mention the name of who, but some jackass fucking broke my mixer, broke the crossfader, because he's all slap happy, just whack, 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 just nailing the thing left and right, and fucking broke the thing off. And after it broke, I really didn't think it's like, well, I don't need it. Whatever. I don't really care. I'm not gonna repair it. Fuck that. I don't need it. So
I never use mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Separates
see,
the men
and
from the boys.
Mine just kind of gets in the way. I hate the fact that
Yeah.
I kind of.
I thought you were getting ready to tell me that you were a boy.
Yeah.
Who's your guest next
It's not my
week?
turn. Who's your guest next week?
I think our guest next week is Jossie.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
going to be really interesting.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to talking
You've
to him.
known Jossie for a while now, right?
I've known he's an amazing DJ. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah,
Jossie's a great
absolutely.
guy.
How did
It'll
you
be
guys
fun.
meet?
Oh,
You don't even know.
being out somewhere. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Being the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jossie's amazing, and Jossie's turned me on to a lot of really, really good house tracks. I mean, I remember so many times like he would go out and play something and be like, "What is that?" And like the next day, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Jossie's
He's really good.
Yeah, he is good, and he's good, and he's a great house flavored DJ. I mean, the guy knows his stuff. Between him and Shannon, and Shannon is absolutely amazing. Shannon, Chicago, and
That dude kills.
yeah, he does. Yeah. Shannon is also just an amazing DJ, and I love to hear him play. Love to hear both of them play. Always have a great time hearing them. So
They're rare performers, though.
well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that you.
They are not much. No.
Yeah. Well, Shannon will get out more than Jossie
now,
does.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're kind of living their lives and doing their thing. But still, I mean, you got to give them credit where the credit's due.
Those two
Those
also
guys are
have
amazing.
I don't know how secret it is, but they have an amazing project on the
Well,
horizon.
let's wait for Jossie
that podcast to talk about
podcast
that.
to talk about that.
I'm not talking about it other than it's going to be cool.
It's going to be really cool. But I was actually wrong. Next week we have Falkirk, and the week after that is Jossie. So
Oh.
you'll have to wait 2 weeks for that one to hear the special project. I think we can pull it out of him, make him talk about it.
I'm sure.
Well,
we
and
can.
what's
excited.
fun is I've never talked to Jossie about that project. I've
You
only
talked to
talked to
Shannon,
Shannon
yeah.
about it. Last time I actually saw Shannon play,
I haven't
he was
heard anything about it, so let's not talk about it.
well, we're gonna try to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Keep it on the download.
Last time I saw Shannon out though, he was playing with these guys that were like, it was a guitarist and a drummer that were doing some old kind of like rock and roll bluesy thing, and Shannon's getting in there in the middle playing a bunch of underground disco. And
Nice.
it was the most odd juxtaposition. Is like, this doesn't work, but I love
that word,
it.
though.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
glad I write things down. I would have totally forgot that. That's the reason we write things down so we
I
can't
write
forget them.
everything down.
I'd be lost
writes
without 'em.
things now. You write things.
I
Shut
write
up.
things all the time.
We're arguing semantics. Well, yeah. So, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and let's get down there. Let's take a small break and get record, and we'll get a new live set from Pete Doerr. Oh, real quick though, do you have any shows lined up right now? Are you doing
No.
anything?
Nope.
Let's change that.
Please.
All right.
Let's change
Yeah,
that.
we
Let's
can.
get a show going
We need some more of this Pete house.
with this Pete house.
Yep. I will do my best.
All right. Well, let's get the set recorded, and next week we'll be talking to Falkirk, and we'll see you guys then. Bye.